guys, today we're going to make potato gnocchi. The recipe that I'm using today is one that I've been using for a while. It's not on cookie dough. We're going to use the Varoma. We're going to have 2 cups of plain flour, 30 grams of Parmesan cheese grated, 30 grams of melted butter and a teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to start off with my potatoes, which are 500 grams of potatoes, either Ruby Lou, Royal Blue or Colaban is a good potato to use. I've sliced my potatoes, I've peeled them, I've sliced them, and about 2 to 3 centimetre thickness. I used to do it the old-fashioned way, boil them on the stove and then use a ricer to squeeze them out and get a nice texture. But since having the Thermomix, it's just a lot easier this way, and you find by not boiling them and steaming them that they don't become waterlogged and you don't end up with a big gluey mess at the end of it. So all we're going to do is to start off with, if you want to follow the recipe on cookie dough and you like the ingredients that I'm using and because it's eggless, feel free to do so. Otherwise, there is a great recipe on cookie dough for gnocchi using an egg, but I'm not using an egg today. So I'm just going to go to the part where I'm steaming. We're going to add 600 grams of water to our bowl. Okay, 600 grams of water. Now, if you want to speed up this process, you're more than welcome to use boiling water, but I've just putting in just normal water, 600 grams. We're then going to use just our Varoma dish, pop our lid back on, Varoma dish in place, and then I'm just basically going to put our 500 grams of sliced potatoes in there. If you wanted to make a bigger batch, you can double the batch. I'm just doing 500 today for the video. Okay, so we're going to go next. We're going to place, we've done that, put our lid on after we've weighed our potatoes in, secure a lid, and I'm just using this just as a guide for our steaming time. So this is going to steam for 25 minutes at Varoma temperature on speed 1. So I'm going to let it do its thing, and then I'll be back a little bit later and show you how we put these gnocchi together. So our potatoes are finished steaming. I'm just going to check them and make sure that they have cooked through. Okay, they have cooked through. Okay, so the potatoes are cooked. We're now going to leave them to set aside to cool for about 40 minutes. So I'm just going to place them on a plate and leave them aside to cool. And while they're cooling, I'm going to go on to make a pasta sauce for them, just a very plain pasta sauce. So I will show you how to make that. Okay, so we're back now. Our potatoes are cooling in the Varoma dish, and we're now going to make a tomato pasta sauce. Very easy to do on the stove, but I just love the Thermomix. You don't get any splatter, there's no cleaning up, no mess at the end of it, and I just love doing it in one bowl. So to start off with, we're going to start cooking. Got all my ingredients ready. We're going to add 120 grams of brown onion, which will go in there. Next, a garlic clove, which I threw in with my onion. Next, we're going to add 50 grams of extra virgin olive oil. So 50 grams of olive oil. We're going to insert our measuring cup into the lid, place the lid on, and we're going to chop this for 5 seconds on speed 5. Okay. Okay, next, scrape down the sides with this spatula. I love the new spatula for the TM6. It's got a nice flexible tip on it. Okay, it smells good. You can see that it's chopped our onions. And it's great chopping in the Thermomix because you don't cry. So one thing to remember is don't put your head in the bowl because you still will cry. So there are beautifully chopped onions. Got the sniffles now, but that's okay. It's beautiful. And if you wanted to go a little bit finer, you could. But I like them the way they are. So we're going to insert the measuring cup into the lid, and we're going to cook these now. Saute it for 7 minutes on speed 1. Okay, 7 minutes is up. And you can just see 7 minutes, you're not standing at the stove sauteing onions. You know when you're doing it on the stove, you can't turn your back because if you do, you'll have burnt onions or burnt garlic. So while it was doing its thing, I was able to go and do my thing. I got a load of washing off the line, which was great. And now I'm back. So I'm going to add 800 grams of tomatoes. So that's sauteed beautifully. It smells great. I love the smell of sauteed onions and garlic. Okay, we're going to add 800 grams of crushed tomatoes. I've probably got a bit more than 800 grams here. If you hold your spatula there, it'll just stop it from splashing everywhere. It just helps it. So I'll pop that all in there. Like so. Next, we're going to add a teaspoon of sugar. And I've got my salt in there as well. Half a teaspoon of salt to taste. Next, we've got some basil leaves. So I'm just going to throw the whole little stalk in there like that. Next, we're going to insert the measuring cup into the lid. Go next, and we're going to cook this now for 20 minutes at 100 degrees on speed 2. Okay, so 20 minutes is up. We'll hit next and it says to serve it, but what we're actually going to do is just pop it in our thermo server and that'll keep it hot while we go on to make our gnocchi. So with this sauce here, I actually like to, if I'm doing pizza, I like to pre-cook my sauce, and I make this sauce up and then I just add a bit of oregano to it and then use that as a base on my pizzas. And it just gives you a really flavoursome sauce as your base. So it's looking beautiful, and always make sure that you use a good quality chopped tomatoes or peeled tomatoes because that will make a big difference to the quality of your sauce. So you can see how beautiful and red that is. Again, hold your spatula, that'll stop it from splashing everywhere, and just pop it into your thermo server. Basil's in there. We'll pop the lid on and that'll stay piping hot for about 2 hours. So we'll put that aside and I'll set up for my gnocchi making and we'll get our gnocchi going. Okay, so we have got our cooled potatoes ready to go. Just take the lid off that, and I've just skipped to where we're going to bring this mixture together. So we're going to add our cooled potatoes. They're all in there. I'm going to add my 2 cups of plain flour. Pop that all in there. Next, we're going to add our salt. So we've got a tablespoon of salt in there. Sorry, a teaspoon of salt in there. We've got 30 grams of Parmesan cheese going in. And we've got our 30 grams of melted butter going in. So I think it's it's the butter and the cheese that acts as your egg replacement in this recipe. Okay, so what we'll do now is pop our lid on, go back to our home screen. Okay, we're going to do this for 15 seconds on speed 6. That's come together beautifully, and I'm just now going to knead this for 12 seconds. So if I scroll across to our dough function, we'll just go dough, and I'll do this for 12 seconds. And that's it, it'll bring it all together. Okay, so our gnocchi mixture has come together beautifully. See that there? Okay, I'm just going to put it onto my thermo mat. And you can see how easily it comes away. Okay. Have some extra flour on hand, because if your dough is a little bit too sticky to roll, you can add a little bit of flour. You don't want to add too much, because if you add too much, you're actually going to toughen the mixture. And you want these to be light and fluffy and just sort of melt in your mouth. So it's come together nicely. So we'll just add a bit of extra flour. And I'll probably just section this off into about 4 pieces, like so. And what I do is just roll them out. You'll see that on the screen. So you just want to roll them out evenly. So I've rolled it out. You can see the thickness that I've got there, and then I'll transfer it onto my wooden board. You never want to use anything sharp on your thermomat because it will cut through it. So what I'll do is just put it on there, and I'll just cut that in half like that, and then I'll just continue on with the rest, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to actually roll these out. Okay, so now I'm up to cutting, so just either a knife or a pastry cutter, and we just cut them to about there. Next one. Such an easy dish to make, and you can feel and see how soft they are, and that's what you want. You don't want a hard mixture, otherwise they're going to be quite stodgy. These will be nice and light. I'll just do this next one and then I'll show you how I roll them out. So you can just see how light they are. You can just pinch them and you can actually cook them just like that if you wanted to, just with little indents, but I'll show you how I actually like to do them now. Okay, so this little handy tool you can buy from homeware shops or a good delicatessen, and this will give us the groove on our gnocchi that we're after. Okay, if you can't get one of these, or you don't have one of these, you can use the back of the fork, and some people actually use a grater. Or like I said, you can just pinch them and they're ready to go straight in the water. So it depends how fancy or not so fancy you want to get. I want to get fancy today, so I'm going to show you how to use my little tool here. Okay, so just grab your gnocchi, hold it in your hand, and you roll it and indent it with your finger. And that's how it looks. So what you actually want is to have that little indent in the back, and that's what's actually going to hold your sauce. So every mouthful of gnocchi you have, you will get a nice amount of sauce to go with it. Then I just pop them on a lined tray like that. I'll just keep going. And this dough is beautiful. I can feel it in my fingers. It is so soft, and they're just going to melt in your mouth. So you can just see how easy it is to roll it. If you were using a fork, same concept, just hold your fork down and gently roll it on the back of the fork. Obviously you're not going to get as many grooves, but you will get a bit of indent there. But I do like the way this looks. So I just roll and flick, roll and flick, roll and flick. Okay, so easy, just hold, indent and flick. Flick, roll and flick. Okay, so as you can see, all our gnocchi are rolled, which is great. I'm going to use those tonight for dinner, which is good. But this is a tray I prepared earlier, so I did these ones yesterday. And what you can do, if you're not going to use them straight away, is pop them on some baking paper and pop them in the freezer, and they will freeze hard. Then all I do is, so I've got these on hand whenever I want. Sometimes I'm in a gnocchi making day and I'll roll out a few kilos. Pop them in your snap lock bag. Okay. So I've popped them all into a snap lock bag, and they'll just sit in my freezer like that. It's really good to have things like this on hand, so when you come home from being out with the kids after school activities, or you don't really feel like cooking, you can pretty much pull these out and have a fancy smancy meal on the table in no time. And these can be cooked from frozen. So it's great having little things like this on hand. I've got pastas, homemade pastas already in the freezer, ready to go. So there are frozen ones. We'll put those aside, and now we're going to go off and we're going to show you how to cook these and how you know when gnocchi are ready to eat. Okay, so what I have on hand before I start is have your varoma tray. I'm going to use this to drain our gnocchi, but also have a bowl underneath to catch any water. I'm going to use one of these. It's called a spider, and it's really good to scoop the gnocchi out as they come to the surface, because I generally don't put the whole batch in at once. I do them in batches. So for half a kilo that we did today, I'll probably do them in 2 batches. So I've already salted my water. Make sure that it is boiling rapidly. You don't want to put them in before it's boiling, and we'll start cooking. And they don't take long, so let's go. And the reason I love doing them on the baking paper, instead of putting them in individually, I just grab my baking paper and I actually just drop it into the water like that. It's ready to go. Just give them a gentle stir so they don't stick to the bottom. And as soon as they come up to the boil, you'll see them coming up. It doesn't take very long, and that's when you know that they're ready to boil. Now you can see that we've put the gnocchi in, so the boil has actually stopped. If you wanted to get that up and running, boiling quickly, we could put the lid back on, but we'll just wait. You can see it bubbling away there. And make sure you salt the water. Nothing worse than having food that doesn't have enough salt in it. So don't be scared of salt. It brings out the best flavour in your food. Okay, so you can see that they've come up to the boil, which is great. I like to keep them there just for a few seconds, just to make sure that they are fully cooked. There's still a few at the bottom to float up, so we'll give that a few seconds, and that's how quick it is. It's much faster than boiling pasta, and so satisfying when you're making things from scratch yourself. Okay, so you can see that they're done, and it's just a matter of scooping them up, putting them in our colander. Make sure you've got a bowl underneath to catch any excess water. I'll just put the balance of the last lot in that were on the board. We'll wait for them to come up to the boil, and then we'll dress our gnocchi. Okay, so we've got our gnocchi in here. See, they're still piping hot. And we've got our sauce in here, so I'm just going to dress these. We're going to add a bit of sauce to these, adding our sauce in. Just mix that through. Just do it gently, you don't want to squash your gnocchi. See how good they're looking. We'll just put a little bit of sauce through, and then we will add it a bit more on top. Okay. And these are quite filling, so you don't need a lot of these. pop the lid on these to keep them hot. So I'll put a bit of extra sauce over the top of it. A bit of cheese, which I grated in the Thermomix. And finish it off with some basil. So that's our beautiful bowl of homemade potato gnocchi. Every good chef tries their food. Every good cook, I should say. I'm not a chef. I'm a home cook, so I will try one and I'll let you know what it tastes like. Okay, a bit of extra sauce. Make sure you get some cheese on it. Okay, they are light. They're really fluffy and they just melt in your mouth, and that's what you want. A really good quality gnocchi will just melt in your mouth and be really, really light. So, perfect. If I say so, 10 out of 10. And I'm sure my family will enjoy their dinner. So I hope you enjoyed this video. See you.